Master Phil here in your corner, and we're at Undefeated Media Studios with Dougie Fresh Friedman. And this is the first time I'm actually working in the studio with someone else. Usually I'm alone in my hovel, yelling into my microphone on my computer. But this time we're stepping it up a notch. And today we'll be taking on sports, science, and health versus the PC rhetoric. So the first thing we're going to address today are gender discrepancies. Okay, there's been this huge movement for identification. So what a person identifies as, what they feel they are, and I'm going to give some examples and then we're going to have some fun with it because listen, you're either one thing or another. There are biological differences between men and women. It has nothing to do with equality, has nothing to do with the worth of a person. So just get that out of your head, ball that up, throw it out the window because it's not even on the table. We're talking about science. We're speaking to biology. Okay, look. There was a guy just from the Tour de France who decided that his motorcycle identified as a bicycle, and he did the Tour de France and crushed all the records. I mean, like you said, where are you going to draw the line? If you continually say you identify as something with no basis whatsoever, where's that going to lead? I'll tell you where it's going to lead. It already has led places. In March 2019, the British rapper Zuby decided to, quote, identify as a woman. He was doing this as a farcical notion. He's trying to blow up this nonsense of identifying as a man, identifying as a woman, and then going and competing against women, naturally biological women. Okay, so Zuby went and just destroyed all of the women's powerlifting records for his weight class. And he was doing just talking. It was crazy. I watched the video and he's showing that a man, a biological man, I don't care what you identify as, you shouldn't compete with a woman because there are distinct advantages, especially in strength. Okay, bone structure, levels of testosterone, yada, yada, yada. Okay. May 2019, transgender male decided to switch his senior year in college and identified as a woman, Cece Telfer. So this guy, identifying as a woman, beat all of the other women in the 400 hurdles by more than a second. Okay, he could not cut it as a man competing with his peers of his own gender. But then because he decided to identify as a woman, he wants to compete with the women, and he was permitted to, thus defeating all the women in the field and breaking records and beating them by more than a second and so forth. I mean, this is an outrage. Okay, June 2019, 3 Connecticut girls on the track team in the state brought a court case, sued the state because the transgender males were just beating all of the women. This is a huge blow to women's sports. You look at it; these women, they're trying to compete. They deserve to compete on an even playing field. They're going to miss out on scholarships, other opportunities. They're missing out on winning these championships because these guys who want to identify as girls are competing against them. Look, listen, this has nothing to do with sexual preference at all. Because if someone is gay, okay, you're gay. Fine. Whatever you do is up to you. I could care less. But when you start going into males, when you're a male and you start going into female sports, you have a distinct advantage. It's going to destroy women's sports. I have 2 daughters and a son, all athletes. And you know what? For the girls to be competing against the boys is not fair. After a certain age, boys will have a distinct advantage over women, especially when it comes to strength and speed and so forth. So, it just goes against all common sense and logic. Doug, what's your feelings on this matter?
It's a very touchy subject, and it's a hot topic in today's day and age with people. They don't know who they identify with, and then they have to make choices on which bathroom they have to go into and
which is
sport.
Insane.
And I'm empathetic to, because you have to have some life changing experience. There's something that happened for you to, feel this way. And, I'm not someone who has experienced that, so I don't know what that person's feeling. But you're right. I mean, in the point where, like, if you were competing against females in MMA, like, where do we? I don't know where to draw the line, and yeah.
Well, I know. You know what? It's a very simple situation that we've made complex. Look, people have different proclivities. People are born with different wiring and so forth, and again, it has nothing to do with a sexual preference situation. And you know what? And it's not discriminatory, and you don't hate the LGBTQ group or people. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact of doing something that makes sense. It does not make sense for men to compete against women, especially in venues like this. It's not fair. And look, and then you look at the other side where you have, this is far less, but where you have females wanting to change to a male, okay, and then wanting to compete in sports. Well, right off the bat, for a female to change to a male, she has to take male hormones. So you have to get injections of synthetic testosterone. As soon as you do that, you're disqualified from competition. So right there, if you feel the need to be a male more than you feel the need to compete in sport, well then, that's the way it is. Again, where do you draw the line? Well, you're not supposed to do, the U.S., the WADA, World Anti-Doping, and the USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Agencies, they prohibit the use of synthetic testosterone. There's also the natural growth hormone. Any of those things that give someone any ergogenic aid that gives an advantage in competition is banned. So you know what? As soon as you take an injection of testosterone, guess what? You're banned. So there is no discussion. So people are having discussions about things that don't bode discussion. This is so ridiculous. I don't even know where to start. Okay,
that's the problem.
And people are talking about it. We shouldn't even be talking about this.
Well, I mean, the problem is is the politics behind it. And as soon as you talk about it, like there's going to be there's going to be people on both sides with their passionate arguments on, like, boys should be boys, girls should be girls, and you should be whatever you want, kind of thing. And there's passionate arguments, and both sides have points. But, like, where do you draw the line? As, like, you want to make a co-ed sporting
right? That's right. Go ahead.
Division.
Go ahead. Yep.
But, like,
we could even have I made a post on this a few weeks ago, and somebody said, "Run with it." A genderless sports league. Hey, you want to do that? Fine. But you know what? I don't want my daughter having to compete in a shot put with some guy who decided to identify as a woman, and then they're in the same shot put circle with each other. How is that fair to my kid? It's not. And I'm not going to stand for it. And you know what? This should not even be a topic of discussion. No one's trying to tell anyone, oh, you can't like this. You can't be that. You can't. Okay, you know what? It is what it is. The line is drawn. You either have the genitalia or you don't. And you say, well, there are certain people who are hermaphrodites. What is that? 0.0003%. Okay. You know what? Address that. The exception proves the rule. So that's how we have to look at this. I mean, and also this doesn't just deal with the transgender. It bleeds into certain other areas too. Because there's even this notion about racial equality of heredity, and some people are espousing that there are no genetic or hereditary differences between the races. Now listen, it has nothing to do with being equal. Every human being is equal, okay? Every human being has the same equal rights. Do some have naturally a higher IQ? Do some are some people stronger? Yes, there are. Why? It has to do with where your heredity is and where you came up from. Mm-hmm. But ignoring certain facts is dangerous. Like here, take for example, do African Americans have a higher incidence of hypertension than Caucasians? Well, yes. And how could someone go and say, "Oh, that's racially discriminatory"? How is that? No, A, it's a scientific fact. B, you're doing the young African Americans a total disservice by not letting them know about this, so they can take precautions, so they can take measures. They can go in and cater their diets, and they can then go and watch their make sure they're getting their proper exercise. So this helps people. You have to identify scientific and biological issues so that you can help others out. Saying that no, there's no differences between anyone. That's just ridiculous. And why? Because that's just a disservice.
Well, I think
that's just one example.
Yeah,
this is one.
But
example.
It goes not only and goes into like this subject matter. It goes into the whole planet. People think that this planet is some type of special utopia where there's no consequence. Like people get mad when like they hear a story like someone's walking down the street in the Dominican Republic at 3:00 in the morning, like down a dark alley. Like you're putting yourself in bad situations.
Yes.
So like people think they can walk around town.
Well, I wouldn't do it in New York either.
You know what I mean? Exactly. But people think that this whole planet is like this utopia, which is the goal, is to have a place where there's no crime, no bad, no nothing. But like you can't just kind of run around, do whatever you want, and think there's no consequence, and think there's like, you know what I mean?
There's a thing called common sense, and it seems to be devoid from many people. And the problem is that this is getting attention. People are taking this seriously. That listen, if you're a guy and you're identifying as a woman, there may be something psychologically wrong with you. Okay, listen,
that's a whole other subject. That's mental health. There's a whole other subject.
Whole thing. Look, I don't know this, but I do know this. I have seen this. And I'm not the only one saying this. This is being put out there that a lot of people in this generation create issues because they don't have any real issues. Okay. Yeah. Yes and no. But if you do look at it this way, if we had real hardship, like let's say we were running around the jungle getting chased by lions, we wouldn't be worried about what sex we're identifying with. We'd be worried about, oh my goodness, I'm going to get eaten. I better get out of here. Okay, so your level of thinking is different. Your priorities are different. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with that. Again, I am not going to go into an area that I am not an expert on. I'm just a casual observer. But I am an expert on sport. I am an expert on exercise science. And I know that there are more than just the genitalia that differentiate men and women. There are bone structure, testosterone, fat percentage content. Guys, we go on and on. And women are designed differently than men. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know, and by putting a male in competition with a female, it's unfair. It's not right. And it's something that needs to be squashed.
So how do we go about this? Do we have ideas? Do we have solutions? How do we even start?
Well, first of all, this solution number one, if you're born a male, you compete as a male.
What if we went like this? Because let's just take it from a scientific side of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know how like you take testosterone.
No, I don't.
No. Not you. Like if you take steroids,
right.
you're banned from the
Boom,
NCAA.
done.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I'm sure like it doesn't matter what you're taking. If your testosterone hits a certain number, I'm sure that's like classified as whatever. So what if you said, all right, you can compete at whatever you want, but if your testosterone hits this number, like you're considered a male because you're male testosterone. I think you were telling me yesterday, like it was like for between like 250 and 250.
Well,
or something.
it's the rating is 250 to around 824. I believe is the range of testosterone acceptable. Yeah, I mean they do tests in MMA, and you know some of these guys were 14 times higher than they should be. But the thing is that they say it's a banned substance. If you are taking testosterone, you're done.
So that those levels aren't correlated to male and female. Like a female is impossible to get a certain level of testosterone.
Yes. And of course, there's variance within.
Yeah.
Like there's variance between males. How much testosterone you naturally produce, and it has to do with your training, your heredity, so forth.
But could that be where you draw the line, where you have this much estrogen?
Yes, you have this much allowable testosterone in your system,
and that's where you draw the line. All right, you got this much testosterone, you can compete with the boys. Go ahead. You got this much estrogen, you can compete with the girls. But if you don't, you're not in that range.
Well, the only thing is that then we have to look at this. An ergogenic aid. An ergogenic aid is something additional that enhances the performance. And if you look at the bylaws in WADA and USADA, any substance, any practice that gives an unfair advantage. So if you take any synthetic whatever, forget it.
Yeah, I'm with you. You.
So they can't.
I'm just saying biologically, because if you're saying you identify as a female,
yes,
but your testosterone levels are not what in the range that a female should be, then it's just like as if you were taking steroids. I'm not. But take out the steroids.
Right.
Part of
it. They have too much testosterone.
They have just too much testosterone. You can't compete with the girls because it's unfair. They don't have that much testosterone, and testosterone is correlated directly to strength.
Right there.
So then, and vice versa. You want to compete with the girls, you need to have this much estrogen in your system.
That would definitely be one solution.
If you identify with that, I mean, it's now we're just drawing a line in science, like because people are getting mad with science. Like, no, I identify with this. It doesn't matter what my body is, but okay.
What if you identify as a turtle? You're gonna live 150 years now.
Underwater.
You gotta watch out for the straws. The plastic straws, you choke. We have to let's look at a couple of criteria. One. Or A, however you want to do it. We can look at the what were you born as?
Well, that's the problem. That right there is this whole problem of where this stems from, is that we cradle too much to the feelings of that 1%, or I don't even know the statistics, and it's a touchy subject. You could say one wrong thing, this could go viral, and now we're the most hated men in America.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take that chance, because if someone's just going to go and take a snippet and not look at the totality of the conversation, you know what? It's their problem.
Absolutely.
And then they better be ready for my full down on them, because I will hammer them. And anyone who's gone up against me knows what I'll do. Because let me tell you something. I don't harbor any of that in my heart. And if someone wants to portray that on me, then you know what? They're gonna be in for a battle, and it's not gonna be pretty. So the point is that we have to do this in all fairness. You know, if you examine Title IX, Title IX is for women. One of the main pushes of Title IX was to have women be able to compete equally. Equal, fair play field, have both. So now,
if you have X amount of women's sports, you have to have X amount of men's sports.
You have
but
to
they're
give
still
women
playing
the
against each
opportunity.
other.
But now all of a sudden you have a couple guys decide that I'm identifying as a woman because I can't cut it in a men's sport, and now they're taking opportunities away from women. That to me is disgusting.
And I agree with that. But that's that perception of that one. What about the person, because this is the other side of the argument. What about the person who identifies as a female, and is doing it because they believe in their heart of heart, not because they can't cut it. It's not like I don't want to be in this league because I'm losing. I want to be in this league because I can win. It's I actually identify, and that's my true where I feel like I should be in the locker room playing field hockey, whatever. I don't know, whatever. Well, but what about that? Like, because there's two different two different intentions. One intention is I'm going to go beat their ass, and the other intention is I feel at home. So how do we solve those issues?
Okay, well the thing is, and I mean, unfortunately for the person who does identify as a woman, they feel it, but they were not born as a woman. You have distinct advantages. So guess what? That's the way it is. Life isn't always fair, but you know what? It's got to be fair to most of the people, not to the outlier. If we went and just, if you look at statistics and then you base your data on the outlier, is your data relevant? No.
Well, that's not the problem in this day and age. We got to cater to every single outlier.
You can't.
It's not possible.
You can't. It's not possible because this one's gonna feel they're they're going to feel they're a woman. This one's going to feel they're a motorcycle. This one's going to identify as a chihuahua. I don't know. Look, you are what you are.
Yeah.
Okay. We're born the way we are. Can we create things around ourselves? Yes. But you know what? There's got to be a deeper seated issue than that. And again, this is not my area of expertise. Okay. I'm not going to solve that problem. That's not a rat hole I care to go down, or I'm not qualified to go down it. But I do know this. Women and men competing, especially in these type of venues where strength and so forth are a factor in determining victory, it's unfair. And I don't want guys competing with my daughters.
I agree.
My older daughter is a power lifter. Okay, she's also happens to be an incredibly intelligent microbiologist, but she likes to compete. Now, is it fair for her to go against a guy who's got testosterone and lifting weights against it? No, he'd crush her. She wouldn't stand a chance. Okay, and then where's the joy of competition? It's gone.
Yeah.
So then women aren't going to go and compete in sports. It's going to ruin women's sports. It's going to ruin them. And I will not stand by and allow that to happen. Okay. So if we have any questions on this subject, please feel free to chime in.
I'll start off. Do you think this stems from parenting? An era where we live in today that it might stem from how kids are raised and parenting issues?
Yes. Okay. 100%. I mean, look, I was raised a lot differently than my kids were. It's the trends, but again, you have to go and look at like what was not only permitted, but what was promoted. And a lot of times kids are very confused. Young children, they have no idea. And if you say, well, be a girl, be a girl, be a girl, and you're a boy or whatever, if you keep giving the kid Barbie dolls and stuff, maybe he's going to go a certain way. I mean, again, I don't know this, but I know that if left to natural devices, most boys will do more of the rough and tumble stuff. Most girls will do more of the, I don't know, like the frilly kind of things. I don't know what to call it, but they'll do more of that caretaker kind of stuff. Look, and I said most. Okay, that is the most. But look, there's a yin and yang. Everyone has hard, soft, feminine, masculine, and that's why the yin yang sign is not a straight line. It's a curve because you have to have the duality of nature. Both aspects must be present in both forces. Like there is some good in evil, and there is some evil in good. So sometimes it's not always a straight line, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't neglect or negate the majority, right? And, as parents, you have to make decisions for your children at times. Look, if I let my kid do what she wanted to do, she would eat Kit Kats and chocolate milk all day and play on YouTube, play computer games and be on YouTube. That's a parent allowing a child to make choices. They're going to make bad choices. Why? A parent is a teacher. A parent is a protector. A parent guides. That's your responsibility. If you do, and is it hard? Heck yeah. Would I love to give my child everything? Yes. Is it right? No. Because it will spoil them. It will not make them responsible human beings, and will not teach them cognitive thinking and responsibility, okay, and accountability. So you have to be accountable. You're responsible for those children. You bring a kid into this world, you have to raise them properly, and you have to make decisions for them until they're able to make decisions themselves. So
Absolutely.
Right.
Along with that, we went down the road of sports, but just like you said, everyone is equal in how they should be treated. But
100%.
like you said before, like there's different scientific traits where if you're Irish, you might be more susceptible to a heart attack, or I'm sure there's things like that.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
So is that another
Yeah.
road we want to kind of touch base upon?
Yeah, I mean, look, the certain races have proclivities toward different types of ailments. I mean, look, Mediterraneans become lactose intolerant. I know that's in my heritage, for lactose intolerances we witnessed earlier today. So you know that, and then here, and then you look at certain cultures, and you say, well, Japanese culture doesn't get certain things, or like some of them, like there's very low cholesterol stuff. Look at the diet. Look at what they do. So yeah, okay. So these are factors to consider.
Yeah.
I mean,
science
there's
is being not enough attention to science.
Yes,
we're just what feels good and what we think should be happening.
Right.
It's not true. And it's not just a race thing or an ethnicity
No,
or whatever.
not.
If you're tall, like tall people are heart attacks or something.
Oh yeah, well, taller people. Look at it this way: how many very old tall people do you see? You don't see many.
Yeah.
Okay, the larger you are, it's kind of like a large dog, right? They live.
Yeah.
They don't live as long as a small dog. Same thing with people. So are there exceptions to the rule? Yes, but as a general rule, the bigger you are, the shorter you'll live. So that is just a genetic thing. So, if you are an extremely tall person, then you have to take certain measures to make sure that you keep your cholesterol intact. You have to, avoid the CADs, the cardio-arterial diseases. You have to work out. Make sure you train. I mean, everybody should be training anyway, but but you have to pay particular attention to that, and you have to pay attention to the health markers, which are there. So, heredity, race, environment. Environment does have definitely have an influence. But the thing is, you can't just say it's one thing. there's many factors,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that I think that we're doing as a society, and just trying to point a finger and say this is the reason. No, it's not the reason. There's usually multiple factors. Anytime I've looked at an issue, I've always noticed there's multiple factors. If you look at the old, did you take statistics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember?
Didn't do very well, but I took it.
I
I took it twice.
I kind of crushed it. I took it as
Nice.
an undergrad and graduate.
Nice.
And here, you have to look at causation and correlation. Okay. So there was a study done, and they determined that ice cream caused rape. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Ice cream caused for increase because there was a study done in a park,
Mm-hmm.
and not far from here, where they showed with the increased ice cream sales, there was increase in number of rapes. Okay. Well,
Well, that could be temperature. It's really hot
of course,
outside.
of course. But you see, that's correlation without causation.
Gotcha.
There's a correlation between the two,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no causation. I mean, you know what? It's hot out. More people are out. People are wearing less clothing. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of other mitigating factors that do not tie these two together.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you have to be careful with statistics. You have to know what you have to know what you're speaking to as far as your set. Like, what is your end value? What are the other factors in here? You can't just base it on one in order to have a valid study or a valid statistic. So, and my fear is that these one-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
arguments are being taken as fact
Mhm.
without looking at all the other circumstances and looking at the cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway.
But I mean, yeah, and that's what kind of goes down the road of like everyone needs to win, and as I think that's going to be our next episode.
Yes, it will be. We're going to talk about that.
Everybody needs to win, no 8th place trophies, and that's kind of where this gray area comes out, where everyone needs to be happy and win. But if there's a couple people, couple people can't. If I loved basketball growing up. I loved basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, shooting and working really, really hard, but it just wasn't in my future.
Yeah.
Like the basketball for me gets me $0. A basketball for Michael Jordan gets him billions of dollars.
Right.
So I got to live with that.
Right.
And
That's the way it is.
and that's the way it is. And the problem is and we live in a time where we're putting too much value on everybody winning and the self-esteem, but then they graduate college and it's tough to get a job, or they don't make the varsity basketball team and they freak out, and just, that's the problem.
Exactly. But yeah, we'll delve into that next week.
Absolutely.
But it's a pleasure working with you.
You too.
And have me here in the Dougie Fresh Studios. And so
this episode's near and dear to my heart. You know, I went to Master Phil's school when I was young, and we'll get into that next episode because
Yes.
I know he has to run.
yes.
But next episode is gonna be very fun, so look out for that. And we'll get a lot of stuff done. But we touched base on a lot of good stuff today. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comment section, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you guys for watching, and take it away.
Thank you guys. And this is Master Phil signing off. Strength and honor.